Claire had not slept properly in weeks. The baby was restless, always kicking hardest when the house was quietest, when her body ached most for rest. She shifted on the couch, one hand on her swollen belly, the other reaching for the glass of water on the coffee table. But the glass was empty. She sighed, fighting the urge to cry. Lately, everything felt heavier than it should have. Daniel, her husband, was upstairs asleep already. He'd been working long shifts at the warehouse, coming home too tired to talk, too tired to help. She didn't blame him, not fully, but she couldn't help the lonely anger building inside her. He didn't feel what she felt. He didn't hear the creak of the floorboards when the house settled at midnight. He didn't wake with a start when the baby kicked hard enough to steal her breath. He didn't notice the way the neighborhood felt wrong after dark. It was nearly midnight when she finally forced herself off the couch to refill her glass. The kitchen light was dim, barely illuminating the narrow window above the sink. She was halfway through filling the cup when movement outside caught her eye. At first, she thought it was nothing, a trick of the wind. But then she saw him, a man, standing perfectly still beneath the streetlight across the road. Her stomach dropped. The glass slipped in her hand, spilling water across the counter. He was tall, impossibly tall, his posture unnaturally stiff, his arms hanging low at his sides. The light above him buzzed and flickered, but not enough to hide the fact that he wasn't moving, not swaying, not shifting his weight, just watching. Claire froze, pulse hammering in her throat. Her first instinct was to call for Daniel, but when she turned toward the stairs, guilt stopped her. He'd been so exhausted lately. If she woke him up over some stranger passing by, he'd only roll his eyes, tell her she was imagining things again. So instead, she turned back to the window. The man was still there. She swallowed, trying to steady her breathing. Maybe he was just waiting for someone. Maybe his car had broken down. That was normal, right? Things like that happened. But something deep inside her whispered that no, nothing about this was normal. The man's head tilted ever so slightly, as though he knew she was watching. Claire's hand went instinctively to her belly, cradling the life inside her. The baby shifted, a sharp kick against her ribs, as if it too sensed the wrongness outside. She snapped the kitchen light off, plunging the room into darkness. Her reflection vanished from the glass, but when her eyes adjusted, he was still there, still waiting. And he did not leave. Not for hours. For 2 days, Claire tried to convince herself it hadn't happened. Maybe she had imagined him. Maybe it was exhaustion or the pregnancy hormones making her paranoid. But on the third night, when she drew back the living room curtain, her heart nearly stopped. He was there again. Same spot. Same streetlight. This time, Daniel was awake, sprawled across the couch, scrolling through his phone. Claire's voice trembled as she called him over. "Do you see him?" she whispered, pointing with a shaking hand. Daniel squinted, annoyed at being interrupted. "See who?" Her pulse quickened. Under the streetlight. Right there. Daniel stood, walked to the window, and stared. He let out a frustrated sigh and shook his head. "There's nobody out there, Claire. You're working yourself up again." Claire turned back to the glass in disbelief. The man was still there, clear as day. His face, pale and unreadable, angled upward toward the house. She wanted to scream at Daniel, to shake him until he saw, but her throat had gone dry. "He's right there," she whispered. Daniel only kissed her forehead, muttering something about stress and rest, before heading upstairs. Within minutes, she could hear the bedroom door shut, the faint sound of the TV turning on. She was alone again. Alone, except for him. The next morning, Claire stepped outside to fetch the mail. The crisp autumn air stung her lungs, and she kept glancing nervously up and down the street. It was empty, the street light from last night cold and ordinary in the daylight. She forced a nervous laugh at herself, trying to believe Daniel was right. Then she opened the mailbox. Her breath caught in her throat. Inside, neatly folded, were pieces of cloth. She pulled them out with trembling hands. Baby clothes, a tiny onesie, torn into strips. Her vision swam as she noticed the faint stains across the fabric. Dark, dried, red. Claire dropped the bundle onto the driveway, stumbling back. The baby kicked hard inside her, and she doubled over, clutching her stomach, gasping for breath. That night, she didn't want to look outside. She told herself she wouldn't, that she would close the curtains tight and sit with the TV on until Daniel came home. But as the hours dragged on, something pulled her back to the window. Her hands shook as she parted the curtain, and there he was, but not across the street anymore. The man stood 2 houses down, closer, watching. Claire didn't open the curtains for 3 days. She kept the TV on from morning until night, anything to fill the silence of the house, anything to drown out the thought of him. Daniel rolled his eyes at her paranoia, telling her she needed rest, that stress wasn't good for the baby. But rest didn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, standing in the dark, too still, too patient. On the 4th night, when Daniel had gone to work a late shift, the urge was unbearable. She crept to the window like a child sneaking candy, her heart already pounding. Her fingers barely pulled back the curtain when her knees nearly buckled. He was there, closer, standing at the edge of her neighbor's driveway. The streetlight above him flickered as though straining to reveal his features, but Claire saw enough. His skin was pale, stretched too tight, like parchment over bone. His arms hung lower than they should, fingers grazing the air at his sides. And his head tilted slowly, like a doll whose neck joint had broken. Her hands flew to her stomach. The baby squirmed inside her, restless, almost panicked. She yanked the curtain shut and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. The dispatcher's voice was calm, detached. 911, what's your emergency? There's a man, Claire stammered. He's been outside my house. He's watching me. He's getting closer. Is he on your property, ma'am? No, but he's moving closer every night. He leaves things in my mailbox. Baby clothes. Please, you have to send someone. There was a pause, then the flat reply. We'll send a car to patrol the area. When the officer finally arrived 20 minutes later, Claire was shaking so hard she could barely open the door. Together, they checked the street. Empty. No footprints. No man. Nothing but a quiet row of houses under dim streetlights. The officer gave her the same look Daniel always did, the one that said, hormonal, unstable, imagining things. He suggested she get some rest and maybe avoid scary movies for a while. Then he left. Claire wanted to scream. That night, she woke at 3:14 a.m. to a sound that didn't belong. A low rhythmic creak. Her heart froze. She pushed herself up, wincing as her back throbbed, and listened. The creak came again, slow, rocking. Her blood ran cold. The nursery. She forced herself to stand, every step through the hallway heavy as stone. The door to the nursery was cracked open, light from the street seeping in through the blinds. She reached out with trembling fingers and pushed it wider. The rocking chair moved back and forth, empty, but the cushion was indented, as though someone had just risen from it. The air was colder in the nursery, so cold she could see her breath. And then came the sound, humming, a lullaby, soft and broken, drifting up from somewhere deep inside the house. Claire clutched her stomach, tears welling in her eyes. The baby kicked again, harder this time, and she whispered through chattering teeth, "Sho, it's okay, Mommy's here." But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie, because someone else was here too, and they wanted her baby. Claire stopped opening the curtains. She didn't need to anymore. She could feel when he was there. The air in the house would shift, heavier, colder, pressing down on her chest like invisible hands. The baby would stir, rolling and kicking in frantic bursts that left her gasping for air. She knew, even without looking, that he was outside, waiting. Daniel still didn't believe her. He was sleeping downstairs more often now, claiming the couch was easier on his back. Sometimes she caught him glancing at her like she was unstable, broken, like she'd already lost her grip. But she wasn't crazy. Not when the humming came again. It started one night just after 2 a.m., drifting down the hallway in that same cracked, uneven tone. She recognized it now, the same lullaby she'd heard in her grandmother's rocking chair as a child. But hearing it here, in this house, from someone she didn't know, made her skin crawl. This time, she didn't go to the nursery. She locked the bedroom door, pressed her back to it, and sobbed into her hands. The humming stopped. For a moment, silence. Then the floor creaked just outside the door. Claire's breath hitched. Her body stiffened. Slowly, ever so slowly, she bent her head toward the crack beneath the door. 2 feet stood there, bare, pale, toes curled against the wooden floor. Her stomach clenched. She clapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a scream as the doorknob rattled gently, then stilled. He was inside, not outside under the streetlight anymore, not across the street, not even at the edge of the driveway. He was in her house, just a thin door separating him from her. The baby kicked violently, as though it too knew the danger. Claire rocked against the door, whispering, "Please, please, go away, please." The feet shifted. She heard slow, dragging steps retreat down the hall. Then the soft creak of the nursery door opening wider. And the lullaby began again. The next morning, Claire begged Daniel to leave with her, to pack up and go anywhere else. His response was sharp, tinged with exhaustion and frustration. "Claire, you need help. You're not sleeping, you're panicking over nothing. We can't just leave because you're scared of shadows." "Not shadows," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Him. You don't see him, but he's here. He wants the baby. He's waiting for it." Daniel rubbed his temples, muttered something about hormones, and left for work early. Claire sat alone on the couch, trembling. She didn't tell him about the nursery, about the footprints she'd found in the carpet that morning, leading from the crib to the door, because deep down she knew the truth. Daniel couldn't help her. No one could. That night, she tried to stay awake. She curled on the couch with every lamp in the house on, clutching her phone in one hand and a kitchen knife in the other. Her eyes burned, her head ached, but still she fought the pull of sleep. At some point, exhaustion won. She woke to silence. The lamps were all off. Her phone was gone from her hand. And from the nursery, through the heavy darkness, came the sound of the rocking chair. Creak, creak, creak. She didn't want to go. Every part of her screamed not to. But the baby shifted violently inside her, and against every instinct, she staggered to her feet, clutching her belly, and stumbled down the hall. The nursery door was open. The rocking chair moved slowly, steadily, and in it sat the man. His body was too long. His limbs stretched unnaturally as he rocked back and forth. His face was pale, hollow, his mouth stretched in a smile that was nothing but gums and shadow. In his arms was a bundle, swaddled, too small to be real. Claire's scream caught in her throat as the figure rocked and hummed, cradling the bundle with skeletal tenderness. Then he looked up, straight at her. The humming stopped. "Soon," he whispered. The room went cold. The baby inside her kicked so hard she fell to her knees, gasping in pain. And when she looked back up, the chair was empty. The house was no longer hers. Claire knew it every time she breathed. The air felt heavier, thicker, like she was inhaling someone else's presence. The lights flickered without warning. The shadows stretched too far. And every night, without fail, the man returned. Sometimes under the streetlight, sometimes in the hallway, sometimes rocking in the nursery with that impossible bundle in his arms. Daniel still didn't see him. He didn't hear the humming. He didn't feel the way the house shuddered when the man moved through it. That morning, when Claire begged him one last time to leave, Daniel only shook his head. "I can't keep doing this, Claire. You're scaring yourself sick. I have to work late tonight. Please, please just get some rest." Rest. She wanted to scream. She wanted to shake him until he understood. But what good would it do? She had stopped being angry days ago. Now she was only afraid. When Daniel left that evening, she locked every door, every window. She shoved a chair beneath the bedroom knob and clutched her phone until her knuckles turned white. The house grew silent, too silent. She dozed off against the headboard, knife clutched in one hand, phone in the other. Sometime after midnight, a noise woke her. Not the creak of the rocking chair this time. Footsteps. Slow, heavy. Inside the house. Claire's stomach twisted. She pressed the phone to her ear with shaking hands and dialed 911. The line clicked. A voice answered, but not the dispatcher's. A low, broken humming filled the receiver. The same lullaby. Her throat closed. She dropped the phone to the carpet. The footsteps grew louder, closer. The bedroom door rattled against the chair braced beneath it. Claire backed against the wall, one arm wrapped protectively around her stomach, the other gripping the knife so tightly the blade cut into her palm. The rattling stopped. Silence. Then a whisper, right outside the door. Claire. Her knees buckled. The chair beneath the knob scraped against the floor as the door pushed inward. Once. Twice. On the third push, the chair slid free. The door creaked open. The man filled the frame. His body was wrong, too tall, too thin, his limbs bending in ways they shouldn't. His eyes were pits of black, his mouth stretched impossibly wide in that terrible smile. In his long gray arms, he cradled the same swaddled bundle, rocking it gently against his chest. Claire raised the knife, her whole body trembling. "Stay away from me. Stay away from my baby." The man tilted his head, humming softly. He stepped forward, his bare feet whispering against the floorboards. The baby inside her twisted violently, as if struggling against something unseen. Pain tore through her abdomen. She cried out, falling to her knees. The man crouched before her, close enough that she could smell the rot clinging to his skin. He leaned forward, his whisper brushing her ear. "Not yours. Mine." The bundle in his arms twitched. Something inside it shifted, writhing. Claire screamed, pressing the knife to her belly, as though she could protect what grew inside. The man's smile widened, splitting impossibly across his face. The last thing she saw was his hand reaching for her stomach. The next morning, Daniel came home to an empty house. The bedroom door was open, the chair knocked aside. The carpet was stained dark where the phone had fallen, but there was no Claire. No sign of struggle. Only the nursery. The rocking chair swayed back and forth, creaking slowly, though no one sat in it. And on the crib, written in smeared, red letters, "Soon."